Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 85 of the Rise Up and Share Your Soul's Medicine podcast. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I'm wondering how you are doing. Today, we are going to talk about mothering your leadership. What does that mean? What does it look like? Because it's truly one of the most important things on this path. If you're here, I know that you have a prayer to serve, to lead, to help others. Leadership mean, what am I considering leadership to mean? And what do I mean by mothering it? And why is it important? And why and how do you do it? Right? That's equally important. And so my name is Lisa Espinosa. I am a spiritual career coach, and I help my clients to clear whatever is blocking them from accessing their soul's guidance consistently. So, like every day, tuning into their soul so that they can be led from that place. And so, what is leadership? Leadership is service, and service is leadership. And so, leadership means that you have agreed, right? So, I'm, of course, speaking of it from a spiritual perspective. Like you have agreed before you came into this life to be at the forefront, not from an egotistical place or I'm better, I'm smarter. That's not leadership. It's meaning that you agree that you're going to learn the lessons first, right? You're going to experience the lessons, experience the initiations. I use that word often. What is an initiation? Is an experience that you've had that has challenged you in some way, has stretched you, has expanded you. And on the other side, you come out of it with more wisdom, with more compassion, with more understanding. And so, what is a leader? A leader basically, I imagine there was your higher self, your beautiful soul saying, all right, uh, you have this mission to go down there on earth and be a leader. And being a leader means that you're going to experience lots of lessons and you're going to experience them first so that you can help the other people behind you to be more efficient in their journey, to save them from falling into certain pitfalls. Or if they do fall, you help them get out of them sooner. And people ahead of us did the same for us, right? They were the leaders and we get to benefit from them. So I know if you're watching this, even if you don't consider yourself a leader, I know that word can trigger some of us. But frankly, we have to really get over it. Like we have to, and I say that with so much love and compassion. But the reason we might shy away from using the word leader is because we misunderstand what it means. And because we often have observed other so called leaders abuse their leadership. But if you're listening to what I'm saying, a leader basically, it's a very noble calling. It's saying, okay, I will go and be in the forefront and learn the lessons first so that I can help others behind me. And what does that mean? That means that it's vulnerable. That means that a lot of times it can feel a little lonely because by the very act of being a leader, it means that you're ahead of the curve. You're experiencing the challenges before other people are experiencing them. So you might look around and kind of be like, I'm here by myself. And one of the hardest things about leadership is that, interestingly enough, you might feel like you're behind, like you're going backwards, right? Like you might feel like, how are all these people around me like, just kind of zipping along and I'm still in this place? And it's because you've signed up for that very vulnerable journey of very deeply learning your lessons. So, for example, and I've shared this example before, but when I became a mom at a very young age, when I was a teenager, and I know that experience was part of my leadership training. I didn't know it at the time, but at the time when I was experiencing so much at such an early age and trying to get through college at the same time, I didn't feel, oh, I'm a leader. I signed up for this. Wow, look at me. No, I felt like I'm so behind. This is taking me so long. It took me 8 years to graduate from college because I had kids, right? And I felt like everyone, when I would look around in my perception, it felt like everyone was just kind of zipping along and I was moving so slowly. Of course, now I can look back and think, oh my gosh, that was one of my most important leadership trainings. There was so much I was learning from that experience. And so as you listen to this, I want you to start asking yourself, where am I a leader? Where have I been a leader? How am I being called to lead? Where have I been ahead, even if perhaps I thought I was behind? It's almost like that's the what am I trying to call it? Not a red flag, because that makes it sound negative. I used to call them in my online coaching program purple flags, right? It's like a purple flag alerting you, like, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. That area where you feel like you've been behind or like you've struggled with so much, that's part of your leadership. So another example in my life is my sensitivity. Oh my gosh, for so long that have felt like a curse or like a weakness. And to be perfectly honest, sometimes it still feels that way. Like there are many times when I'm like, I wish I wasn't so sensitive. Like on all levels of the word, right? Physical, mental, emotional, energetic. And yet I know that my sensitivity is absolutely part of my medicine. It's part of why I am so intuitive, part of why I can really help my clients and really tune into the nuances, right, of what their soul is trying to say or what emotional blocks are there. I couldn't do my work if I didn't have that sensitivity. But for a long time, that felt like a punishment, like a curse, like I said, like I was behind everybody else. Because there were so many things I always had to take into account from the simplest of like going on travel. I'm going on a big trip tomorrow, so this has really been in my face. And so again, asking yourself, where am I a leader? Where has been my leadership training? And so now that we've established, and I'm just going to look at my notes to make sure, yep, that I'm not forgetting something. Well, let me back up a little bit. One of the things eventually about being a leader is you're called to be in the spotlight in some way. Now, your leadership will look different than everybody else's. I know some people's leadership is on the stage in front of a camera, but not everybody's is. Yours might be, or it might be more behind the scenes. Doesn't mean you're not a leader. And so that's really important. But now the topic of this podcast is mothering your leadership. Because, years ago, I was actually in a leadership training course, like spiritual leadership training course. It was very, like it was not a walk in the park. Okay. It was very deep. There was a lot of things you had to do and process. And it was not easy. I'm so glad I did it. But in there, in this training, when you're getting towards the end of it, when you're kind of about to graduate almost, you're guided to meditate and connect not just with your soul, but with the ascended masters. For me, it was Mother Mary, and really ask, like, what am I going to need on my leadership journey? Because if you look around, you can see a lot of people in leadership, from the government to workplaces, bosses, to schools. And you can see, we've all seen examples of leaders that have become narcissistic, egotistic, even abusive. So, of course, when we're on this path, so many of my clients are afraid of leadership because they don't want to become that, right? They're like, oh, no, 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 I don't want to be a leader. I just want to help people. But literally, you're here to help people by being a leader. Like, that's the truth. So anyway, as I was about to graduate from this leadership course, meditating with Mother Mary, I was like, okay, Mother Mary, what am I going to need? What am I going to need to continue to be a leader, to have the courage to continue to put myself out there, to be authentic, to feel the vulnerable feelings that being a leader brings up and do it anyway. And what she told me was that it was going to be all about mothering my leadership, being a good mother to myself as I kept leading. And I have to say, I wasn't really happy with the answer, right? I was thinking, I don't know what my mind was hoping for, like, I don't know, like strengthen your auric field or get really strong chakras or become more intuitive or something along those lines. But mothering my leadership, I was like, that sounds boring and kind of hard, right? But it was like she was saying, in order to continue to be a leader, you have to be a good mother to yourself. You have to parent your leadership. That's why people fall. That's why people either get burnt out as leaders or the other extreme, become very controlling, sometimes egotistical, sometimes narcissistic, and sometimes even abusive. And so I've really been reflecting on that for the last, that was like 4 years ago. And so this is what today specifically is about, is how do you mother yourself? And these are the things that as I was tuning in, I came up with, and I wrote them down here. We're not going to go into great depth on all of them, but listen so that you can start to understand, where do I need to really work this muscle, right? So one is, this one kind of covers everything, but I'll go more specific into it, is having your own back, right? So what does that mean? That means that in your journey of leadership, you will make mistakes. You will, quote unquote, fail. People will judge you. People will seem to reject you. All of that is going to happen. Lots of amazing things will happen as well. But all the things that you're afraid will happen probably will happen, right? It's like, it's just part of leadership. And so you being able to have your own back. And so how do you have your own back? These are some of the things. One is very important, is witnessing, being your own sacred witness of your pain and frustrations. And it doesn't even have to be like some really intense pain because this horrible thing happened. In fact, sometimes we have an easier time with that, meaning like I've noticed in my own life and with my clients that sometimes when they're going through really, really challenging things, they can understand, oh yeah, I need to have compassion for myself during this time. This is really difficult. Not always, but sometimes that can be easier. But then those little frustrations, oh, I wanted to teach a class and I wanted to have 10 people and instead I had 7 people, right? Or for example, right now I shared yesterday in a class how, we're living in Mexico now and I have no regrets. So much of it has been amazing and beautiful. And now we're in the middle of a really intense heat wave in Mexico. And there's no air conditioning. We don't have air conditioning in our house. Most houses don't have air conditioning in this part of Mexico. So I'm going through an initiation right now, right in my office. I was so frustrated, just like feeling like it's hot. I don't know if I can do my client sessions here. Do I need to move rooms? And that can seem like such a mundane little thing compared to something really big that can feel like such a small thing. And that's literally what I was telling myself, like, oh my gosh, Lisa, just get over it. People deal with so much worse, blah, blah, blah. But of course, that's not being a good mother to myself. This is precisely what Mother Mary was talking about. And it doesn't mean self-pity. It just means really pausing and letting yourself have your feelings, not drowning in them, not trying to push them away, suppress them, but just acknowledging, this sucks. This feels really hard. I wish this wasn't happening. Really using that self-talk like a good mother would. Now, for those of us who didn't have the good fortune of having a mother that was able to do that very naturally because of her own wounds, right? So maybe you didn't have a mother that was very loving or cheered you on or was very encouraging, who allowed you to have your feelings, but also didn't let you like drown in them, right? But wasn't rushing you through them. I mean, many of us didn't have that. So this is asking a lot for us to learn how to do that for ourselves. But that is precisely what this leadership journey asks us to do. Because when we don't do that, what happens? We start to suppress, we push back those feelings that are there. And inevitably, when we're suppressing, we end up projecting. We become more judgmental of others because we're literally judging ourselves. Oh, you shouldn't have those feelings. Oh, you should be over that. Oh, you should be further ahead. We're doing that to ourselves. So, of course, we're going to do that to others. Even if we don't do it out loud, internally, we do it. And that is like, as leaders, one of the things that one of our greatest trainings is to show up with compassion and non-judgment. That is the goal. We fail miserably all the time, but it's the goal that we're committed to. And so part of our leadership training is learning to not judge ourselves. And it is a practice. It's not simple. It's not just buying yourself chocolates or going to get a massage. It could be that. That can be very loving. I love that. But that's like extra. Like really the beginning is how do you talk to yourself? And also like I put on here, like asking yourself good questions. And that, I'm going to write that down as a possible other podcast episode on what questions to ask yourself. In fact, in my free masterclass that I'm teaching at the end of the month, May 30th, I believe it is, registration is already open. It's called Getting Unstuck and in the Flow of Your Career Success. And in that, I will talk about what are good questions, or empowering questions is a better way to say that. But think of all the disempowering questions we ask ourselves all the time. What's wrong with me? That is like the most disempowering question ever, right? What's wrong with me? Because guess what happens when you ask that question? Your primitive brain, your ego mind is happy to share with you all the things that are wrong with you. Well, you're too sensitive. Well, you're not committed enough. Well, you're not smart enough, thin enough, pretty enough, whatever, who knows? It's not a question that actually brings up high, like your genius level answers. There's a skill to asking yourself empowering questions. It's like you imagine sitting in front of Mother Mary or Kuan Yin or Green Tara or whatever ascended master, or sitting in front of your soul, and think of what questions they would ask you. I cannot imagine Mother Mary sitting in front of me and being like, what's wrong with you? Like, that would just not be the question she'd ask, right? And so starting to identify, a question like might be like, how can I support myself through this? When you're going through something challenging, right? Or when you're going to put yourself out there, like my clients are so brave, they're so courageous, and they don't think they're brave or courageous. That's the thing. So when you hear that, I don't want you to think, oh gosh, I'm not like that. No, you are like that. Meaning they're scared and they're trying to, just like me, right? Trying to really follow their soul's guidance. And so as they make the decision, something as simple as, sharing a blog that they wrote that's very authentic and maybe a little vulnerable, it's like our ego mind might ask a question, well, how do I do this and not feel bad? And it's like, again, that's a very lower level question, because the truth is you might feel bad. That's normal, right? But it's like, okay, how do I nurture myself as I keep putting myself out there? How do I love myself as I keep experiencing rejection? How do I support myself through this big expansion I'm going through? Those are the type of questions that you want to ask yourself. And there's others, again, in the webinar, in the masterclass, the free masterclass, I'll go more into that. But just as you listen to this, start to pay attention, like, yeah, what kind of questions do I ask myself? Are they actually empowering questions? Even if you don't know how to formulate an empowering question, I guarantee you know if you're asking yourself an empowering question. How do you know when you ask yourself the question, do you feel better? like you feel lighter, you feel better, you feel calmer, you feel more grounded. That means you're asking yourself empowering questions. If you ask yourself the question and you feel overwhelmed and confused and stuck and heavy and like you want to collapse and defeated and ashamed and guilty, then you're like, okay, I'm not asking myself good questions, right? And of course, also, asking yourself like positive self-talk, asking yourself empowering questions, cheering yourself on. I mean, it's really that good mother, right? That mother that looks at her child and absolutely knows their child is so special, is so gifted, has so much to share with the world, understands that her child will get scared at times and sometimes might not want to show up, but she's going to listen and validate those feelings and then still be like, keep going, right? It's not going to be like, you're dumb for feeling this or what's wrong with you. That's how we talk to ourselves. And so, again, going back to my journey and my leadership, when Mother Mary said, like, that's what you're going to need to be able to keep going, is you're going to have to learn how to mother yourself and do it in a really good way. It's like she literally showed me almost like a chart, like your level of how much you can lead and impact others, how much success you'll experience, how much service you will share with the world, how big your legacy of love will be, is directly proportional to how well you mother yourself. There was no exception. There was no caveat. It was like, that is essential. And as I said, I didn't like her answer, but I've been learning to really follow that over and over and over. I don't always follow it. It's an ongoing practice. So how do you do it? Okay. If you've been listening to me for a while, you probably will guess the first step, because it's like always the first step. First, you set the intention. And for you, you might just need to get very clear on that you are a leader. Like, wow, I didn't consider myself a leader, but I am seeing that I am a leader, that I am on a leadership journey. So it's like setting that intention and setting the intention to mother yourself, parent yourself through your leadership. So that's always the first step, is to set the intention. Do you even want this? Are you committed to being of service, to being the leader, the answered prayer, the way shower that the world needs? And don't let those labels put all this pressure on you. It's like those labels could either inflate people, like, oh yes, I'm a wisdom keeper, I'm so much better than others. That's a problem. That's the ego. Or some people just collapse under the weight of that, like, oh, I'm supposed to lead people, I have to be perfect, oh my gosh, I'm not. That's also the ego. It's like, we need to understand we wouldn't be called to this if we weren't called to it, if it wasn't part of our purpose. So once you set the intention that, yes, I am a leader, and yes, I am committed to mothering myself, parenting myself through my leadership, right? And I shared all those ways that you can do it. One, how do you talk to yourself? What questions do you ask yourself? Are you asking yourself empowering questions or disempowering questions? And I gave you, and if you just arrived, you can go back and listen to that, where I shared, how do you know if you're asking yourself a disempowering question? Or how do you know if you're asking yourself an empowering question? So that's really important. And now the next step really is, and I really thought about this because this can be really challenging, coming up with a plan of how do I mother my leadership. But what can be a lot easier is, what does it not look like? Have you ever noticed how sometimes it's really hard to think of what you want, but it's very easy to know what you don't want? Well, you can come up, and this is one of your assignments, come up with your list of what doesn't it look like? When I'm not mothering myself, my leadership. So for example, you might be like, well, I'm not beating myself up. I'm not feeding myself food that makes me feel bad. I'm not saying yes to things I want to say no to, right? I'm not depriving myself of self-care that I really need. I'm not hanging out with people that make me feel really bad about myself, right? I'm not taking people's comments personally. People that I'm leading. It's like, so you can start to make all the knots. Well, it doesn't look like this, and it doesn't look like this, and it doesn't look like that, and it doesn't look like that. And again, you don't use this to beat yourself up. Like, you might come up with your list and then you look at it and you're like, wow, I'm literally doing all those things. It's very normal. I mean, I am as well, many of those. So for me, for example, on my list would be like, well, it doesn't look like I wouldn't be beating myself up for feeling bad about stuff. And literally that's what I was doing all morning, right? When I was like upset about my room and not being able to be here and it being hot, but then also beating myself up for not just not getting over it and being positive and telling myself things like, oh my gosh, other people have it so much worse. That wasn't helping me. I wasn't saying that from a place of love and compassion. I was saying that as a judgment of myself. That's not mothering myself. So again, don't beat yourself up if you look at your list and then you recognize, wow, I'm literally being a terrible mom to myself right now. That's so normal. It's a disease we have as humans. So don't use that against you. Just know, okay. Because then step 3 is, for me, call on your soul to help you. I love calling on the Divine Mother and those ascended masters that represent her, like Mother Mary, like Kuan Yin, like Green Tara, right? The mother of all Buddhas. Call on them to teach you, to help you on this journey. Trust me, they understand how vulnerable and challenging it can feel. And so we're going to do just a very quick inner journey to ask a very important question, an empowering question, and for you to start getting some answers on that. Okay? And welcome everyone that's here. So the question is, well, actually, let's go ahead and go in. So I invite you to close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. Feel the earth underneath you. Maybe you bring the palms of your hands over your heart, even if just a moment, just bringing that connection to your heart. And just welcome your soul to be here. It doesn't have to be fancy or elaborate. Literally just say, beautiful soul, I welcome you here. And if it resonates with you, if you want to, you could also say, beautiful divine mother, I welcome you here. If a certain form of the Divine Mother, like Mother Mary, if you feel connected to her, you can say, Mother Mary, I welcome you here. Or Green Tara, I welcome you here. Or Kuan Yin. And they always answer. They're not waiting for some special invitation. They're like, yep, we're here. And now you're asking, and I'm just going to use Mother Mary as an example, but you can replace that. Beautiful Mother Mary, beautiful soul. What part of my leadership needs good mothering right now? What part of my leadership needs really good mothering? I'm hearing the word exquisite mothering. What aspect of my leadership? And I'm just going to pause for you to get your own answers. Now, I want to remind you, when you ask, you always get an answer, but you might not hear it right now, and that's okay. Just trust that it's landing in your heart and it will be revealed at exactly the right time. So again, beautiful soul, beautiful Mother Mary, what aspect of my leadership needs really good mothering right now, needs really exquisite mothering? Receive that answer in your heart. Thank your soul. Thank Mother Mary, the Divine Mother, whoever you connected with. Trust that if you didn't hear the answer, it is in your heart and it will be revealed at the right time. And if you want to share in the chat or in the comments, please feel free to do that. I know I was getting a lot of like answers. One of the ones that I was able to grasp, because I know more will be revealed, was something along the lines like Mother Mary was saying, like recognize the courageous steps you're taking and really, really take the time, like to do that for myself, like to really take time to like validate myself, like look at that step you just took, that was so courageous. Like, and I know it might sound a little silly, but it's like that's what she was saying that I have to do because I'm in a real expansive part of my leadership right now. So for me, yes, around those kind of courageous steps I'm in the process of taking right now. And she was saying, recognize them. That was how I mother it, right? Just like a good mother sees her child taking courageous steps and she's like, oh my gosh, that was so brave. That's so courageous of you to do that. And the child needs that, right? Because the child might feel like really insecure. And so for you, you listen to what it was. Jill is saying going global, right? So that's the part of your leadership that needs mothering. And so Jill, I don't know if she already told you or you have the answer in your heart, but like, how do you mother that? Like, right? What is the self-talk? What are the empowering questions? What is she saying? This is how you mother that next level of your leadership. Kate heard, take it easy on myself, trust in divine timing, all will be revealed. Yes, and literally those are all the words you can say to yourself, right? Take it easy, trust, it's all happening in divine timing, all will be revealed at the right time. You can relax, right? So those are like the sentences, right? The mantras that the Divine Mother and your soul said, Katie, to like share with yourself, right? And the tone is so important, right? So it's not like take it easy, come on, just like relax, right? Like that's not, we can beat ourselves up with anything, but it's all about the tone and the energy. And please do not misunderstand. There might be times where you're like, I don't feel like talking to myself like that. I just don't feel it. I'm so frustrated right now. Call on your soul and the Divine Mother in those times. Sometimes people hear these teachings and they think I'm saying that I'm suggesting Kate is always going to just be like, oh, yes, just take it easy, trust in myself. Like, I'm very clear there might be times where she needs to hear that and she's not feeling that. That's the whole point, right? Where there's times where I might take a courageous step and I don't feel courageous. I just feel so insecure and so scared and so paralyzed. Like, I can't believe I just did that. So I call on the Divine Mother, please help me, help me, help me mother myself in this moment. I can't do it by myself. I'm so scared. I'm so nervous. I'm so frustrated. I'm so annoyed. Help me. So that's the step, is ask for help. And with practice, yes, it'll become easier, right? Yes, there will be, our ability will increase. And your leadership, I can guarantee you, your leadership will absolutely expand. I see it in my own life. I see it with my clients, all my clients who, there's always a point when I start working with people where they resist this, right? It's like they hear it and they're like, okay, that sounds good. I think I believe it. And they maybe even say I believe it. But obviously there's work to do before there are different parts of them will trust it. But I can always see when they've hit this point of like deeper trust in it, and the impact that they have on people is so much greater. The service they can provide is so much more powerful. The people that are magnetized to them, it's just like everything gets increased. So going global, that would be an increase, right? It's like, I know in some Christian traditions, they'll talk about increasing your territory, right? That's like the prayer, increase my territory, God divine. That's a lot of responsibility that we're asking, right? If we're saying increase my platform, increase my territory, in other words, the divine needs to know that they can trust us with it. Trust us in the sense of, are you being a good mother to yourself? Like, are you like really tending to your leadership so that you can show up with the most integrity, authenticity to those you're here to lead? And that does not mean perfection, right? So don't let perfectionistic stuff come up now. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Just went a little over, but I just want to tell you next week won't be a episode. I will be traveling throughout back in the States. And then the next week after that, I will be back, but it won't be on the Wednesday. It'll be on the Friday because I will have just arrived the night before, and I'm mothering my leadership by realizing, what will be best for me and for everyone is if I don't immediately jump into work the next day, because I know I'm going to need to reset myself a bit from all the traveling. All right. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm just going to turn this over in half. Oh my gosh, look at the card. Starlight. Don't slow down manifestation through hesitation or worry. Keep the faith and create light in the dark. The path of the stars is made by the same energy. Look at this gorgeous woman. I love that line. Keep the faith and create light in the dark. That's what a leader does. You create light in the dark for others, but it has to start with yourself. Create that light for you. When you're in the darkness, you create it by mothering yourself. That's how you do that. All right. Bye, everyone. This is from the Enchanted Forest Oracle, by the way. And sign up for the masterclass. It's going to be amazing. It's free. What is it? Get unstuck and in the flow of your career success. And the Mother Mary class. Are you kidding me? She's going to heal us of the self-hate virus. Like, yes. Thank you so much, Kate. I appreciate that. All right. Bye, everyone. See ya.